The Sauber name is something that carries a lot of weight in motorsport. Currently seen in Formula 2 and Formula 3, it dropped off of the Formula 1 grid for the first time since 1992. But even before then, Sauber was hugely successful in the field of sports cars, especially the terrifying Group C era of the 1980s. Partnering with Mercedes, the two created the C8, which had some moderate success, and the two came together to produce this, the Sauber C9.
So Sauber started its relationship with Mercedes with the C8, but really it was just as an engine supplier. It was still really a Sauber run operation, and gradually the Mercedes involvement increased over the next few years. So it was 85, 86 with the C8, and then the C9 came along in 1987. Kuros liveried, so it still was sponsorship and just the Merc engine. And then in 88 it stepped up another notch with Mercedes involvement. And then finally for 1989, the return of the Silver Arrows was when I think in the wider world saw that as a proper Mercedes team, although it was still Sauber personnel, a lot of Mercedes personnel as well. And perhaps the key point is that they brought in a few new technical things, in particular the new M119 engine. So that was really the culmination of that gradual path of Sauber and Mercedes getting more and more of a partnership in world sports car racing.
So from the C8 to the C9, there were a few changes afoot. The aero package was completely overhauled. This one you can see here is the standard package. There was a special low drag version for Le Mans as well. But they also fit the rear dampers longitudinally in the back, just to try and keep that centre of gravity down as much as possible. Sure, the car was very, very quick at the start, but it was also incredibly unreliable. Although Johnny Dumfries set a blistering lap time in Le Mans in 1987, the car just kept breaking down and didn't register a single finish in that year's World Sports Car Championship. And so in the transition from 1987 to 1988, Sauber and Mercedes got to work on sorting out the internals for this car, and it proved to be hugely successful. In the hands of Jean-Louis Schlesser, Jochen Mass and Mauro Boldi, the team won the first race of the 1988 World Sports Car Championship. It proved to be hugely quick, but following a huge tyre blowout in that year's Le Mans, they were on the back foot, and it turned out that Jaguar's XJR9 was quicker.
Whenever Mercedes come into motorsport, I think the expectation is always high. From 1914, with their first appearance or when they came back to Grand Prix racing, 34, 54, everyone expects them to be a dominant force, or at least at the front straight away, and this was no different. Of course, Group C was very competitive at that time, and the car was familiar. It was fundamentally a similar one to 1988, which had battled Jaguar throughout the World Sports Car Championship, but didn't get to compete at Le Mans because of tyre failures in 88.
After having had an accident yesterday night on the straight of the Unodier with a speed of 360 km an hour, for this year, and I'd like to say it's only for this year, we have to withdraw our two cars. So
there was no 24-hour experience with the team, so it's very difficult for people to gauge exactly how strong they would have been. So they were a bit of an unknown. It seems strange to look back on it now given the result, but they weren't absolute hot favourites at that point.
But the following year, the C9 won Le Mans in the hands of those drivers and won all but one race in that year's World Sports Car Championship, absolutely obliterating the competition.
It's a three-way fight between Mercedes, Jaguar and this lone Yost Porsche, the quickest of the Yost Porsches. And Jaguar probably had the edge on sheer pace in the race, but they had gearbox and engine problems, which was an old V12 problem, which seemed to be overcome, but came back to bite them. The Yost Porsche had various problems as well that dropped it out of contention. So really, although all the cars suffered one delay or another, the leading Sauber Mercedes really just that classic thing at Le Mans of staying out the pits more than anyone else. And of course the big strength they also had with the M119 engine, which was the new Mercedes engine for 1989, which was a 32 valve engine compared to the 16 valve the year before, was lots of low down torque, lots of power, but also great efficiency. It was a perfect halfway house between the big normally aspirated engine in the Jaguars and the smaller sort of highly strung turbocharged engine in the Porsches, which is about 3 litres. So it's a 5 litre twin turbo V8, so relatively under stress, highly efficient. And speaking to Jaguar drivers now, looking back, the main difference between the cars really was the efficiency of the engine, the punch of the engine, because the actual cars themselves are quite evenly matched.
And then in 1990 it had its last hurrah, winning the first race of that year's season, the 480 kilometres round in Suzuka. But in a field of works Nissans, Porsches and Jaguars, Sauber and Mercedes created something truly special to put Mercedes back on the motorsport map. And the two combined once more in 1993 when Sauber made its move into Formula One.